We're live.
We're live.
Yeah,
And
I
that's
don't have the
okay.
email yet, but. Right, sorry, will I get that email then, or?
I'll go Brian to send it as soon as.
No, I agree.
Okay.
I didn't. That's what I didn't like about it. Like I
Yeah,
just
me
thought
too.
it was kind of rude, right?
So we are.
We are live. That's
And
okay.
even if somebody calls a question and there's 50 people in queue, it's up to the chair to say, is there any different opinions? If not, I'm going to go to the motion. That's the chair's job, not your job to call the question and cut people off.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
Well, the poor chair had a lot on his desk.
I can see it in your eyes. Actually, I couldn't because I can't see what's in my glasses. I'm just going to breathe in my carbon monoxide and poison myself. It's not very breathable. No,
This one looks very heavy, but it's very breathable.
and I can't see because it's got it in my glasses.
I know.
So here it looks to be working, in terms of the feed and the chat ability.
We've got a minute. I'm just gonna wait,
Sure.
just in case Nicole runs in at the last minute.
Great.
We've got 1 minute.
Have you seen those masks? It's your face, but it's your face. The mask is your face, but it's your face with a mask like this.
Oh.
Or no, like this. But it's a mask, so the mask would look like this. So then when people are saying, pull your mask up, you, what?
That is owned by Survey.
I could see myself getting that mask.
The clock's a little bit slow again. We'll call our regular board meeting of Monday, April 19th to order at 6:30 p.m. I'd like to acknowledge that we're meeting today on the traditional territory of the Denizah and Treaty 8 peoples. The agenda was circulated. Are there any additions to the agenda? Actually, before we do that, I have to go back and do roll call. I forgot to do that. All right. Area 1. Madeline. Here.
Yes.
Area 2.
Trustee Scott Moncrief.
Thanks, David. Area 3, Nicole Gillis will be joining us, but she's not here at the moment. Area 4. Ida Campbell. Area 5.
Aaron Evans.
Bill Snow.
Ellen Gilbert. And I will let people know that might be watching on live stream that we do use our phone throughout the meeting to communicate with people that are not in the room. So if I'm on my phone, it's legitimately connected to what's going on with the meeting. Now we'll go back to 2.0, additions to the agenda. If there are none, can I have a mover and a seconder to move by Bill, seconded by Madeline? All in favor? Thank you. We do not have any presentations or delegations that I'm aware of. We are going to move on to trustee celebrations, and we'll start with Ida Campbell, Area 4.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I did write some things down this time. We attended the BCSTA AGM over this last weekend virtually, and I'm sure other trustees that were there will talk about it. It was quite interesting. In the past, we did some interviews with our masks, and that was a little bit different. I've been emailing to school principals and staff, showing my appreciation on what they're going through at this hard time. And I have gotten back a couple of really nice responses, which also made me feel good. And in Taylor, it was nice to see the kids last week. They did a bike rodeo outside, and it was nice to watch them do that. And we also, one of our counselors in Taylor, Brent Telford, he went to the school on Sunday and he spent approximately 3 hours blowing off all the rocks off of the sidewalks, the crosswalks, and the walking path and the bike path that the kids use at school. So I'd just like to shout out a big thanks to him. We did do that on the Facebook and everything, but I'd publicly like to acknowledge that he did that on his own time, and it was really appreciated by the students. And that's my.
Thank you very much, Trustee Campbell. Trustee Evans.
Really I was just looking to see what I did, but mostly just work stuff. Attended the AGM on the weekend with Trustee Campbell, attended Provincial Council on Thursday night. And then this coming weekend, I'll be attending, I wrote it down here, the Children's Mental Health Symposium on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So instead of the Indigenous Pro-D, I'll be attending that symposium, and yeah.
Vice Chair Lehman.
Yes, I attended the AGM as well. Different experience if it's an AGM, there's a lot of voting, and the text managed to pull off to have hundreds of people on there, and voting went very smooth. There were a lot of training sessions going ahead, and I think that definitely paid off as well. Maybe just to mention the committee of the whole, we do framework presentations, and I have to say I do really appreciate being first with North Peak and Duncan.
Charlie Lake? No.
No,
We've done North Peace, Charlie Lake, Duncan Cran.
North Peak, it was North Peace and yeah, they were together, and then
Charlie Lake.
Yeah, Charlie.
And Charlie Lake.
there was Alberta, but they're always good to hear, and it's good to hear from the principals, and I agree with you mentioned it, the staff, they're, yeah, hats off to their hard work.
We're just at the stage of celebration, so we'll give you a minute to catch your breath. Trustee Scott Moncrief.
I attended as much as I could of the AGM. I've been in contact with my administrators to see how things are going. Everything seems to be running fairly smoothly, and that is my report.
Thank you. Trustee Snow.
All right, I attended the AGM on the weekend, as well as I've stopped into the high school, visit the administrators there, the ELC, and virtually contacted the Bird Ambrose to see how everybody's doing. Stopped in a couple other schools too. Everybody's tired, but they're getting through and doing a great job.
Thank you very much. Trustee Gillis.
I too came into the board office and attended the AGM this weekend, and I've checked in with my local principal to see how things are going out there with the newer restrictions and whatever.
And this goes back to March the 8th, so it's been a long time since we've had a regular board meeting. I've attended 4 PAC meetings for various schools. I did attend the Canadian School Board Association Indigenous Leader Panel, and that was where I first heard Dr. John Chenoweth, who was just elected as a trustee. That particular presentation is recorded, and if you go into the CSBA site, you can listen to it. There was some fairly interesting perspectives throughout it. Some technical difficulties and connectivity issues, but it might be worth going and listening to. I forget how many board chair calls I've been on in that period of time, but there's lots. My most exciting event since our last meeting was I worked as part of, with the pack at Bell Battle, and we did an outside Easter egg hunt by cohort. Took the full day, but the kids really had a blast. I've touched base with a number of principals and echo what some of you have said, that they're weary. The bounce isn't quite the same as what it usually is, so I'm hoping some warm weather and sunshine and time outside is going to bring some relief. On behalf of the board, I did do a congratulations video related to the regional science fair that involved 3 districts and 97 projects, and I sent the link to that out to you. They seem to have pulled it off in a virtual world, in a virtual environment. And so a big thanks to all of the people that were involved in that. And today you got a message from our beginner band teacher showcasing the work that went into virtual presentation for the Peace River North or Regional Arts Festival, and congratulations to the students that were involved with that. And like the rest of you, I attended the BCSTA AGM this past weekend, and I want to, throughout the lead up to that, and throughout it, I'm very aware of the need to say I appreciate all of you. We share a sense of purpose and spirit of cooperation that is not always evident on other boards, and I really do appreciate that, and walked away from the weekend feeling that way. So that is what I have to say.
Are you gonna have a clap?
Pardon?
Are you gonna cry, Helen?
No, I'm not gonna cry. I just can't imagine volunteering and being used. And that's what's going on for some time. All right, we're going to move on to taking a look at, we're at 5.0 on the agenda. And we're going to take a look at, well, before we do that, we're going to look at the minutes of the regular board meeting, March the 8th, 2021, pages 6 to 11 in your package. Give you a minute to look at them. Can I have a mover and seconder? Moved by Aaron, seconded by Bill. Are there any errors or omissions? All in favor?
Oh. I think it's business right.
And is there any business arising from those minutes? Aaron?
I'm just wondering, because we sent out all those letters for the rural connectivity for internet stuff, even just by email, should we do a little follow-up as a board, just by email to all those people that we sent that replied to us, and just tell them that, you know, our motion passed at the AGM?
I did earlier, as is mentioned in the minutes, reach out to Brad Sperling related to the Peace River Regional District and let him know we were putting the motion forward. And in his response back, it was to let us know. So it probably wouldn't hurt.
Yeah, that's where I was thinking that, because I saw that in there that you let him know.
So, because we heard back from quite a few people. So are you wanting to do that, or do you want me to?
I don't mind doing it. I just don't have a list of who we heard back from.
we can go back through our correspondence and find it. How
Yeah.
about we'll go back and
Sure.
forth on that,
Yeah.
okay? And we'll get a list. I know off the top of my head, but I missed some.
I have some of them in my folder at home.
Yeah.
Regarding this motion, if I needed to speak to it, but I know I don't have all of them, so.
Okay, we'll work on that. All right, any other business arising from those minutes? All right, moving on to agenda item 6, approval of the excerpts of the regular board meeting, in-camera board meeting, February 22nd, 2021, which is page 12. Moved by Bill, seconded by Aaron. It's quite short. I don't have to give you a bunch of time to read it. Any errors or omissions? Calling the question, all in favor? All right. We're going to move on to take a look at our announcements and reminders. And at agenda setting meeting, one of the things that we did was we made sure that some of the budget presentation meetings and things like that got added so everybody knew when that was coming up. Is there anything else that we need to keep in mind as we are almost to the last 2 months of the school year?
The one thing that we couldn't add, because we didn't have a date, for those that, and that's gonna be discussed more in the committee of the whole, is the financial audit committee. There will be a meeting coming in somewhere towards the end of May, early June, that all is depending, but.
Aaron?
When is grad?
I don't know that we've ever heard a date. We've heard they're going to do the same process of bringing small groups of kids in. Presbyterian had their dinner. They talked about maybe something in June, but with the restrictions the way they are, I don't know that they will. And Hudson Hope, they did kind of a...
Would it be nice, I'll make sure I get that information collated together for, if there is something at Presbyterian, I don't know, but Hudson's Hope and North Peace in terms of the when and the where and the how, and I'll get that out to trustees.
Yeah, I don't even need to know the how necessarily right now, but usually we have it
The dates and
listed.
stuff,
Yeah, the
absolutely.
date listed usually, yeah.
Staff will get that back to you.
Any other, all right? Moving on then to 8.0, senior staff report, superintendent's report.
Thank you,
Oh, wait,
Chair.
sorry, Helen.
Sorry.
Can I go back? What is the partner group information discussion on May 3rd? What is that?
So that's actually budget.
Budget.
It's the budget consultation process.
It's
Yeah.
just called something different. Oh, sorry.
Essentially, I think what they'll do is they'll go over what you presented. But we wanted trustees to be able to connect to it so that there was a trustee presence if people wanted to do that. So, and it was just to remind us of how many different groups and things that we're meeting with and what we're doing. So we'll move on through the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Chair. Item 1 is our regular activity report for HR. Item number 2 is the now regular workforce report when we received that from the ministry for some of our bargaining groups. And the next item is the superintendent's online report. And I'll go through that now, and we can always come back if there's any questions on items 1, 2, or 3. First of all, just some under curriculum, so under a framework for enhancing student learning and intellectual development, just a few items for trustees and the public to be aware of in terms of curriculum. This is the season for some of our assessment, including the kindergarten phonological testing, which happens in the fall as well as in the spring. SD60 is part of the performance standard pilot, which is getting some groups of teachers together to look at the proposed rubrics and information, and so we're glad to be part of that. And it was a voluntary thing. Staff said that they were interested in doing that. SD60 is also looking ahead to piloting Mathology. It's being well received in terms of a new resource. It's available in English and French, and so we have a number of schools doing that, and we're supporting those schools with that training and process. Trustees will have heard about Thinking Classrooms. We're in a partnership with North Vancouver School District, and they've been coming in to do workshops for our secondary as well as our elementary classrooms, and it's being very well received. Helen mentioned the virtual science fair, and so they did have lower participation, but they were able to pull it off, and I've included here. So first of all, you can view the entire award ceremony. There's a link, but also the Key Learning Center. We're proud to share a couple of their students, Miriam Canham and Corey Meyer, who were successful again in their projects, and it's a nice reminder that we have students at the KLC that participate in those in-person events as well. Helen also mentioned the band, and so you may have heard that the recruitment is going quite well. And so they really had to pivot. They made a recruitment video, and this band crew has overcome some significant hurdles this year in planning and COVID requirements that are much higher threshold than the others. And by all accounts, it looks like the recruiting has gone very, very well. And so personally, I love band, and I'm very pleased to see that progress. Under human and social development, there are parent workshops that continue. These are always sold out. And so we're quite pleased with some of the education that's happening this year. And also I'd like to share with the trustees and the public an update here on some of the doctoral research that I'm doing, which will include a survey to adolescents here in SD60. So I'm just going to give a brief overview of what that research is. The title of my dissertation is on adolescent use of social media in Canada. Even though I'm doing a sampling here in School District 60, it's essentially going to be discussing the behaviors of adolescents on social media. The background for this came from a course 2 years ago where there are very differing opinions out there as to what is the benefit, but also what are some of the perils of online behaviors, and specifically social media is what I was interested in. And a quote that has stuck with me from the very beginning is that technology is neither good nor bad, but nor is it neutral. So what we do with it is incredibly important. And it became the basis for the fact that social media, not only is it not neutral, it can actually be quite manipulative in terms of what it can do to the user. Therefore, the problem of my research is identified as the fact that adolescents spend a significant and increasing amount of time online, especially on social media platforms, where some teens check their profiles up to 300 times a day. In a similar American study in 2018, they surveyed about 748 random students across the country. Even the students themselves identified that there were some aspects that were positive, neutral, but there were also aspects that they themselves determined to be negative. And according to the survey, some of those results depended on whether they were male, female, low socioeconomic status, age. And so that got me interested in what's the comparison to Canadian students. Therefore, my research questions are, how do adolescents aged 13 to 17 in grades 8 to 12, which mirrors the American study, currently interact with social media? What are the most popular social media platforms? These tend to change all the time. It's why you always need to find out and get current research on it. What is the impact of social media use as perceived by adolescents, positive or negative, and what reasons do they give? What impacts does the use of social media have on this population by age, gender, ethnicity, and socioeconomic status? Specifically, my study will be focusing in on Indigenous students. How do their responses compare to the rest of the population, and is there anything that we can learn from that? And finally, how do these results compare with the American results? That's just the conceptual framework of what's going to be tested. And in the research, I included background on what is it that makes adolescents tick. It's actually quite important to understand some of the cognitive development of adolescents to understand why social media platforms are so popular. And it's the whole risk, reward, and peer acceptance that's driving that. And so part of the research is also looking at how they interact, what are their favorite sites, what are they doing on there, and then research on the positive and negative effects, and where applicable, variations by demographic variable. This is just some of the methodology that I'll be using. Particularly in question 3 is going to be looking at those demographic variables. I won't say too much about this other than you can see across the top are those variables of male, female, ethnic, socioeconomic, and along the left-hand side where each of those groups come out naming either positive or negative effects of social media. I'm working with the survey company that executes the learning survey for the province of British Columbia. It's a Willock Systems. They're putting the survey together for me, and the link will be sent out to our target population here in SD60, which is all students in grades 8 to 12, age 13 to 17, and the survey company is going to manage the data for me. Some possible outcomes of this is that we'll learn what is the most recent behaviors of adolescents online, particularly in northern British Columbia. We'll have a bit of a BC perspective on how Indigenous adolescents use it, further insights, and with the idea that the more we know about these behaviors, perhaps the better prepared and planning we could do in terms of the education sector. And that's the study. The next part. Moving along. It was really nice to see the video that Margaret Montmarie shared of Tim Hortons stopping by their school to thank frontline workers. And so I do encourage trustees and the public to take a look at that video. And I want to publicly thank Tim Hortons for thinking of them. Under careers and skill development, really exciting project that has garnered a lot of interest across our schools, and it's called Discover E. And it's a program that provides, for us, it's going to be over 300 ADST kits for elementary and middle schools, and they want to try and promote engineering and those kinds of things in all groups, kids, male, female, diverse. And we're finding that there's far more interest than there is availability, so we're actually, Mr. Campbell's looking at getting more funding to buy more kits, and so that'll be rolling out in the next few weeks. We continue to offer information, articles, and support for our employees through this EdCan partnership, and trustees are welcome to look at what that's about. The website is a portal where they can enter, get further information, and connect. We have a current book study going on around the district, and so just further information on that. Under Truth and Reconciliation, trustees are aware of the non-instructional day coming up next Friday? This Friday. This Friday, sorry. And we're very excited. Trustees just went through the AGM with over 300 people, where we're going to have even bigger numbers for this speaker and workshop. And so please check that out, and I encourage you trustees to join if they can. There's 2 sessions, a morning and an afternoon. You can just pick one. As always, there's a great background around what is a band council. And so there's information there that people can read to learn more about it. Finally, under Take 3, Brent Ambrose were still able to hold their annual student conference on March 12th, and they created some skits, and they're a lot of fun. I do encourage people to check that out, and a lot of work went into that, and they found creative ways to make it happen. Here's some photos from the Cole Central Elementary School of the Arts. And they went to a gravel pit. Hard to imagine that exciting, but they enjoyed it. And the point was to gather some rocks. They were painting them. They were doing art activities with them, and then some of them were even being donated and given away. Well, here they are, for example, doing an ADST with some of them as well. Hudson's Hope has included what they call the Nest News, and there's a wealth of information there in terms of activities from the school as well as from around the community. So let's take a quick peek at this one here. It's a lot, so just to show you, it includes not only information, but also pictures of all of the different classes and activities and groups. And so it's a really thorough representation along with calendars for the upcoming months. This is just a celebration and a shout out from Sally Burley, who works with us. And this is a student from Upper Halfway, and she wanted to celebrate Kylan's accomplishment of raising money for a shuffleboard table through the hot lunch program out there. And so it was a real celebration of a student who found some success in this particular activity. And that is my report, and I respectfully submit it.
You have a mover and a seconder? Nobody else is competing. Aaron and Bill? All right. Discussion, and we won't forget, we'll go back. Item number 1 on paper was the Human Resources Summary Report for teachers. In the column, Stephen, that says resignations and retirement, in conversation with some of our principals, there was a bit of a concern that some of our people that are working in our district that are from back east and other places that haven't been able to see their families and things like that might be considering moving. So is that 5 more retirees, or is it some resignation? You might not know, but.
I don't know. I'll have to get back to you on that.
Yeah, I'm just curious.
Yeah.
About the
Breakout?
impacts of COVID on recruitment and retention. And when we talk recruitment and retention, are we starting to see people planning to leave as they ask?
Oh, okay, that one I can answer, but first of all, we can see if we can break that out in the future. The posting and filling is going quite well in terms of many of our people are returning to those positions, combined with the fact that we are being relatively conservative in our staffing for the fall, so we're in pretty good shape at this time of the year. But thanks for the question.
Any other questions related to that? And there's the workforce report that was attached. It'll be interesting to see what happens with April's absenteeism. It'll be really interesting 2 years down the road to compare. All right. And if there's no other questions related to that, we'll move on to Stephen's electronic report. Any questions related to that report? Good luck with your dissertation.
Well, thank you.
It'll be some interesting research.
It is. I forgot to mention that just a bit of a little success on Friday. I did pass the dissertation proposal, and so essentially I can proceed with the research part and move to the next level.
That's always a fun thing.
Darren?
I missed it, but what was the age group? I know you're talking teens, but what was the specific?
13 to 17, grades 8 to 12, because it's replicating the American survey. Those are their parameters.
Yeah, perfect.
Marilyn?
So were the rocks outside the board office part of this project? They were very pretty rocks.
Yeah, no, I don't think so, but that was kind of neat. Do you know?
No, I don't know where they came from.
They're nice.
Yeah, that was kind of neat. I like that.
I was going to say on the Tim Hortons, they actually went to a lot of schools, and a lot of different schools have pictures up on their webpage. It wasn't just Murray that they hit. No, they hit Burt Bowes. They hit a wide variety of schools. At the same time, they hit some of the hospitals and things too. So
That's great. Thanks for that clarification.
well, did you?
Well, they hit most of the schools, I know for sure.
Yeah, I think they did it on some of the Facebook pages and things.
Cool.
It was well beyond Murray. It was quite amazing how many they hit. So Stephen, if trustees want to sign up,
For this one?
For this one, what's the best process?
So yeah, there was an email put out there that you would allow you to click on the link and register.
Okay.
Yep.
I know it came out and it was to be done through Everbright?
Eventbrite.
Eventbrite,
Yeah, so
okay.
there is one out there for the trustees, but I can certainly track that down again.
No, I just wanted to make sure we
You
got
bet.
clarified. Okay. Great. Any other discussion or questions related to that? Then we'll call the question. All in favor? So we're moving on now to the Secretary Treasurer's report.
My report is just to go over the trustees indemnity. A little late, the changes, I guess, are supposed to occur at the beginning of January, but the consumer price index actually decreased from the previous December. So there will be no changes to wages for January.
Are you taking money away?
I'm not taking that is a point of
take away.
Yeah, it is a point of clarification that we need to make in policy at some point, so.
Yeah, I guess that has to be in policy, right? That if
Yeah.
there isn't an increase in CPI, that we don't reduce.
It is, it's in there.
Is it?
Yeah, it's at the bottom of the front page of the policy, page 101. In the event of a negative increase amount, the trustee indemnity will remain the same as the previous year. It's in policy.
I'm looking at
That's the addition.
Okay.
That's the policy, that's the
Okay.
addition that we want to put in.
Oh, so is
Okay,
this going for notice of motion then?
No, we were gonna bring it to the policy committee first.
Maybe can we just do notice of motion on it right now?
We could just do notice of motion on it right now.
Do we need to bring it? I mean, I don't think we need to bring that to the policy
You're the
committee.
chair of the policy committee, go ahead.
Can I bring the, can we remove this from the Secretary Treasurer's report and bring it for notice of motion for the next, board meeting?
I'll move that.
Moved by Nicole, seconded by Bill.
You don't need a
No
seconder.
Oh, I don't need a seconder, that's right, sorry. Thank you for reminding me.
Just, I mean, if it's just that simple, I don't think we need to bring it to the policy committee. Let's not waste time.
Moved by Nicole then, and so we'll need a seconder. Thank you guys for reminding me of that. The other item that was part of Angela's report was the human resources support staff summary. So there were two items for her report. So can I have a move? Our items that we're pulling out for motion will be the notice of motion. So we have pulled that out now. Can I have a mover and a seconder for that report? Moved by Aaron, seconded by Ida. And when we've already solved any questions related to the indemnity clause, was there any questions on or discussion related to the human resources support staff summary? Bill?
Yes, I'm just curious about the daytime custodians. When it comes to next year, are we looking at having them, or are they a 1 year thing?
That is a discussion point that we have for the budget coming up, so we will keep you posted.
I know,
on that.
talking to the principals, they're very
Yeah.
appreciating.
Of course. Absolutely, takes you off of the super big.
Yeah, so that is a discussion piece that we have.
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry. I did say puke and poop brigade, you didn't mean to say that, and I just realized we were live. Oh, sorry. Okay, all in favor? Moving on to agenda item 9.0, reports of the regular committee of the whole meeting of April the 6th, 2021. pages 15 to 17 in your agenda package.
So, point of order, Chair, and my apologies, do you need to do anything with that notice of motion now?
We
Is it
just-
already done?
We did do
We
it.
just did it.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
Ida moved it and then, yeah.
Thank you.
Actually, Nicole moved it.
Oh, sorry.
And we did not, and they reminded me of no need to second it.
Got it. Thank you.
Hold it at the next
Thank
meeting.
you.
But thank you for keeping us honest. That is important. All right. And I have a mover and a seconder on these minutes, moved by Bill, seconded by Ida. Are there any errors or omissions? Right, calling the question, all in favor? And the business arising was the employee recognition.
Oh, okay, but I have a question, because
Okay.
I missed it, and I read the minutes, but I probably should have asked this on the weekend, didn't think of it at the time. The audit committee, is that the budget stuff?
And it will be make it to be.
Because it says district staff and trustees to review workload scope. So this is the policy on the audit committee for the budget, which is listed under partner, whatever, on the, which is listed as the, what is it?
It's more like, what do we want the committee to take over? Like, do we want to bring the budget item, the financial statements to the board table, or do we want the committee to review it and then bring it back to board meeting?
So is this that partner group information discussion? Is that separate from the audit committee?
Yes.
Do you want to speak to it, Madeline?
It is separate, and that's why it's in the minutes, as we're gonna bring it back to the committee of the whole. We've been given that, they were attached on the committee of the whole, the terms of reference on the last committee of the whole, they were attached. There were two attachments there, so if you can even just cross-read through it to give you an idea, because right now, as it says too, we're in the, kind of looking for another trustee to join. And really, it's a new committee, budget is obviously gonna be a big part of it. But depending, there's gonna be other factors, aspects of it too. And we're not gonna do the same thing probably from year to year, because we could not cover everything that the BCSDA suggests we cover. So we pick and choose priorities.
And there is an oversight role in terms of policy and making sure policy is updated. So there would be some working in tandem with the policy committee. But as I said at the last meeting, it wasn't until we sat down and started to meet. We passed those terms of reference, I think, way back in October, November. And then when we actually held our first meeting and started to look at it, and some of the implications for how we had things set up in alignment with that terms of reference from and suggestion document from the BCSTA, we think we need to revisit it. Because one of the things that I didn't do really as chair, which I probably should have done, was to say, we need to clarify for the audit committee what their role is and what we want them to take on out of this document. Because there are some boards that your whole board is always your audit committee. But we discovered some problems, so it was attached to the last committee of the whole meeting, but not really many people had time to look at it. So our concept was, let's commit to having really looked at it and then come back to our next committee of the whole and hammer some things out for the remainder of this year with a revisit as to the function and purpose of that.
Yeah, because I thought we were gonna look at that audit committee anyway and revamp it in the policy, even the policy of it, right? Yeah. Thanks.
Any other questions related to the minute or any other business arising from those minutes? Okay. I think all in favor then of accepting those minutes? employee recognition, I jumped the gun on and we did it in camera, so my apologies on that. But we moved it from in camera to regular last time, and I guess I just moved it back. So that portion of our agenda is done. Moving on then to policy committee, and we have before us the travel policy, and it was moved by Aaron. We're at the stage where it's been out, and we're looking for a seconder for that policy on travel. Seconded by Madeline, and that would mean that that is carried.
And sure, there's
no-
no feedback on the.
No feedback on it?
We have to vote on it.
I was just gonna do that. All in favor? Very. Gee, I got going too fast. Right, travel is done. Moving on then to a draft policy, the bylaw to provide for the organization of the board. We need somebody to move this.
Or should we say what is being added?
Yeah, we could do that. You want to speak to it?
Sure. Yeah, so the bylaw number 1/90, we are adding, if you go down to page 3 at the bottom, page 3, electronic meeting expectations. So what trustees need to do for joining Zoom meetings, for regular and in-camera meetings. And that's on page 3 and 4. I think that was it that we're adding. So we're just adding that to the bylaw, and then, so it's going out for notice of motion, and then it will need 3 readings when it comes back.
I always forget the 3 readings for bylaws. So thank you.
And I'll move it.
Thank you, Erin. Moved by trustee Evans.
I'll second it.
We don't need
We
a
don't
You don't need a seconder.
No, you don't need
You're on it now, okay.
Just
Just
testing.
testing.
Yeah, I was testing.
All right, moving on to policy 2003. Erin, do you want to explain that one?
Oh, sure. As per the policy committee, policy. We add and delete policies. This is one for deletion, as we know, we no longer, well, we need some flexibility in how we configure our grades at different schools and various schools. And so, this is an outdated policy that is not needed. And so we are, putting this out, notice of motion to remove this policy, so that if there's any questions or any other considerations that we haven't thought about, we're going to use that time for somebody to come and let us know and to consider. So I will move that this policy be deleted from our policy.
Thank you. We don't need a seconder right now. We're just putting it out. I'll get that part right sometime. All right, moving on to other reports, BCSTA.
I'm happy to report at the AGM that as a provincial councillor, we moved the financial statements for BCSTA. We also approved the budget, and then we also, even though the auditors still had some time left on their 5-year contract, that we still also continued, we made a motion and moved it to continue with the auditors with the BCSTA. I can't remember off the top of my head what the auditors' names are. We also successfully passed our 2 motions that we put forward to AGM, one regarding internet connectivity and the other one regarding assessment wait times for neurodiversity, such as autism spectrum disorder, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, fetal alcohol spectrum disorder, and sensory processing disorder.
Just while we're talking about BCSTA from the board, I was going to send just a quick email to people that shared and worked and things on that to say thank you. The other thing Stephanie foreshadowed is I have a board chair call on Wednesday morning. And the topics are BC provincial budget, recent COVID updates, and any immediate required follow-up for the AGM. So is there anything that you want me to make sure that I mention on that call? Move that to science, I will mention.
Yeah, I'm kind of good on that, but I do have something else to mention about the BCSA
Okay.
too before we're done.
Okay. Not done, then we'll go back to you.
You done? Oh, okay. Yeah, the other thing too is the chair, the New Westminster School Board, was receiving threats. She had, she had made a tweet on her own feelings about, RCMP in school, I believe it was. And she was receiving death threats and threats over that tweet. And I think that it's, really unfortunate that even if you disagree with her position, that you have to move to that level of death threat. And so I think that, it makes it tough to advocate on behalf of students when, you have a fear that you're going to be threatened with your life and doxxed on social media, So I just think, I know as a board, we support her, and I would like to, publicly say that, we support her and value that she has an opinion on something and that she's willing to advocate strongly for that on behalf of her board and her students in her district. And so, yeah, it is unfortunate that that had happened, and I think it's just unfortunate all around. And it makes people afraid to speak up.
I just have a question about the budget, when you were at I guess that was in the provincial council, you guys talked about the CSBA budget. Did they see a big savings not doing the 2 AGMs?
They did, and what happened was those savings went back into the board. So instead of increasing the fees for the boards every year, they just left the fees as they were, and they incorporated that into those sort of fee increases. So instead of us having to pay more, they've just taken that out of the savings. And the Mike Roberts is retiring, so they'll be on the search for a new CEO.
One of the things that was said at some point on one of the board chair calls is that orchestrating that AGM via Zoom actually cost a lot of money, like the development of the voting software, even though it was done by staff, it ended up costing a lot. Because the question that got posed was, do you think that down the road we can go to AGM in person as well as via Zoom? And it was, whoa, you have no idea what you're asking there, and you have no idea what it'll do to the costs. It's not as easy as you think, because like on that AGM, they had somebody from
Zoom that they contracted to stay throughout the whole AGM.
Yeah.
So they brought in extra ITs that they hired just for those days.
Yeah, so I know that in the long run, and I know that we looked at that motion from Kootenai about all ministry meetings being optional in person or via Zoom. Again, there's not necessarily a recognition that there's a cost to that. And I think at one point they were actually going to entertain a motion to have the same thing happen with BCSTA stuff, and then it got talked about and I didn't see it come forward.
There's also the hidden cost of not being able to network too, right? Like, that was one thing, that's one thing I missed too, is having those face-to-face conversations with other districts. Like, especially as we go through the motions, talking to other districts, how do you guys do this? How's this for you? And, hey, we're experiencing this issue. What have you guys gone through? Yeah, there's something on the hub that, chairs and whatnot can talk about, but there's something missing with that networking piece that you don't get when you're doing it on Zoom how do you put a price to that, right?
BCPC?
I have no report in public, but at this time, I'd like to explain that the BCPC is a personnel committee, so a lot of things we can't discuss in public. So when they always hear that I don't have a report, it's not that we're not doing things, it's just that it's in camera, and it's because it deals with personnel. Thank you.
So,
Let's start that rumor, Nicole.
so, Board Pro D committee, we're still kind of, Terry was going to do some financial literacy stuff for us. She's still connecting and able to, but I would like a committee to start to work on the concept of advance. And so at our agenda setting meeting, we put some dates down tentatively for advance that tie in with after the first meeting with the administrators, the typical report from the superintendent, and we kind of already have two big rocks for those days. We thought we could do the financial literacy then, and then the other thing that we have to start to do is plan for how we're going to do our strategic plan for next year. So those would be two things that would take up a lot of time, and so would form some of the basis of what we need to do on those days. But there may be some other things, like especially after the AGM and where things are headed, taking a look at what our district response to racism is. Those are just some ideas, but you may have some other things out there that you feel we need to kind of think about with advance. But the idea was to get the dates out there and then see who is willing to help work on what we need to do.
That's a Sunday, right? Sunday, Monday?
Yeah.
That's what I was just gonna say, what we tried to do in the recent previous years is to sort of start with lunch on a Sunday, and then Sunday afternoon, and then all day Monday as the itinerary for the,
It's a Sunday, Monday.
Yeah, so my only concern with that is that with everything that you're talking about doing, I don't know if you can get that done in a day and a half.
I don't know. I think that what it would
Like those
be.
two big rocks are probably enough for a day and a half. And then, if we do a data walk and, like we usually do, if you're talking about adding a strategic plan in there, like that's a lot.
I don't know if we're going to be ready, like, you can speak to when we're going to work on the framework and when that's actually.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the data, we're now into this ministry cycle of having that FESL report for the end of September. And so staff are preparing all of that achievement information to be ready for the end of September as part of an education annual report. And so trustees will actually get to view and see and discuss all of that information in September.
Oh, okay.
So we won't have to do that, because all of that will be compiled. In fact, we might even be able to share it with you previous to the September board meeting. So I think with those two rocks, it is possible. The only other consideration is that if we look at Monday, Tuesday, just to be mindful of some of the things that we need to do to get ready for the school year as well.
Is that the long weekend or is that the?
So who would like to work on that?
I don't mind doing that with you.
Okay.
I can help if you need help.
Aaron, Madeline, okay, great. Got a core group. So put the 29th and 30th in, because unless something changes, that would be when we would be looking to do it.
Ink it in or pencil it in?
Pencil, always in pencil.
I don't have a pencil. I'm gonna ink it.
Does anybody have any thoughts about, I remember the first year we talked about this, we thought about, like, we called it a retreat, and we were thinking it should be funner than it is. But then last year we couldn't do anything because of COVID.
It was fun the first year when we went to Stephen's house.
Yeah, but we couldn't do that last year, so we just sat here, and we've sat here a lot now this year with I just wonder about booking the Cameron Lake site and spending the night out there. I know for everybody else, they get to go home that night, so it's disturbing, but like, I never go home between the retreat anyways. I spend the night in town because I'm here 2 days in a row. So it would welcome you guys to my world.
So what?
I just something a little bit more fun.
Committee's got to build more fun in.
I just wonder if I don't know,
Can I bring my trailer?
yes, if you don't want to bunk, you can bring your trailers out there, but the bunk houses are
All for
comfortable.
one for all.
I don't know, it's,
It's actually something I
Yeah.
suggested even last year, but it's always a balance for the board in terms of the time for travel versus, can it be part of the conversation
It
of
can
this
be part
planning
of the,
group?
yeah, so you could tentatively book Cameron Lake for us.
We certainly could.
And then it's on the table if we're talking ahead.
So would you have a board meeting that night then? Usually in August, that's when you have your board meeting.
Unless we did the board meeting at the retreat.
Yeah, that was part of, we hadn't done the calendar for the year yet.
Yeah, I was
Next
working
year.
on that today, that's why I thought.
That's why you know. Ida,
Yeah, I think that we can decide that, like, we could have the board meeting. Because right now, it doesn't matter where we were at, we'd be able to Zoom. I don't know how much, what's out there though.
There's terrible internet out there.
So we wouldn't be able to have a board meeting that night.
Except that you could at, although, getting home after that, but we could have it at Hudson's Hope School.
The board meeting, you mean?
Yeah. But that might, at least let's brainstorm all of that and the
Yeah.
implications, and we'll get back to you as a planning group.
yeah, but just hold those dates, okay? Right. I'm not aware of any correspondence to bring forward. Unfinished business, partner group meetings, I put down. With COVID, we couldn't meet at Ann Roberts Young with the city, and we canceled that meeting and postponed it. So typically in a year, we would have the meeting with the city, we would have a meeting with the regional district. We were going to go to Hudson Hope and have a meeting with Hudson Hope, Taylor regional districts and invite the city. Last May, that got canceled because of COVID. We have the spring MLA session, which we jointly typically do with School District 59 that we did via Zoom last year. And then we still have ongoing discussions where Northern Lakes College Board would like to meet with us. So when you look at that, we are now have 2 months left of the school year. Even if we opted to do Zoom for all of those, it's at this point, given the workload for our staff, not feasible to have all 4 of those. But is there one of those meetings that we should prioritize and make sure that we get it in so that we can start again next year? We may even look at changing some of our timing around things, but yeah.
I think the college board would be really important. We have never met with them in my recollection as my time as a trustee, and I can say as a college employee, stuff that I'm hearing from the college is not necessarily what we're doing as a school district, and I think that there's some mixed wires happening there, and so I think that's important.
Ida?
And when you reference that we meet with District of Taylor, Hudson's Hope and Regional District, we've always left it up to who's hosting, whether they include the city of Fort St.
Okay,
John or not.
thank you.
Because sometimes they don't want to.
Okay, well, it's just we have 4
So just
things
so you
that
know
we
that.
haven't got to, so thank you for clarification.
But I think that if we're gonna meet with them, like Fort St. John, Hudson's Hope and all that, I think we should do it all together, like meet with all of them this year, if we can get them in, because then it's all at one, and and then we're not thinking of having, regional district, Taylor, Hudson's Hope is one, and then City of Fort St. John is one. I think if we met all of them together, then we're kind of killing 2 birds with 1 stone. No offense to the birds out there.
And I agree with that if we're not going to meet separately with.
Yeah.
And I think our MLA and both MLAs, with 59 and 60, are very good at reaching out informally anyway.
Really?
Connection.
And
keeping in touch. So I don't know if we need a formal meeting with them this year if we can't fit it
it
in.
was nice to get together with 59, and I honestly, when we discussed this, we sort of, at agenda setting, was do we target one, or, where are our priorities at? one of the things that we do have in common as a topic with all other local forms of government is the concept of COVID recovery. But when do you start to want to reach out to a group and discuss that? Because, have we recovered? Where are we at?
Just thinking through some of that, it would likely be by Zoom or virtual probably
Yeah.
this year. And it might be a bit overly complex to have several groups as part of the same meeting, just because it's always nice to touch base with what are the specific concerns or values of a particular organization, have a more of a purposeful conversation. So my recommendation from staff would be that if the consensus would be the college, is that we focus on the college as one group, and then we just renew the partner group meetings in the fall.
Ida?
I agree that's what we should do, and we've tried to meet with the college, so if we can get a meeting with them, I agree with that 100%. But then my second choice would be that we meet with School District 59, because we haven't been able to get together with them at our NIBs and
That's right.
and it's so similar, and we could actually, if we really wanted, we could even include Fort Nelson in that one and have the three.
Do COVID recovery?
Yeah, and just touch on how they're doing.
Another
it.
year, yeah.
Because we haven't been able to have that conversation.
I concur.
To local, okay, I will do a reach out and see when and if and how we could, if there's an interest, first of all, on that one, and then I'll do a reach out to the college again and see if we can set something up there.
I think college ones are key. I mean, we have some staff members here that their job is a key component of working with the college.
And they do a good job.
And they do a great job.
Yeah,
Right, but since I've been here, we've never met with the college as a group.
we've never.
No,
And I just,
you guys,
It could be-
since
yeah,
I've
it could
been
be a
here,
benefit.
we haven't met with the college.
And it's really interesting because some of the stuff, as an employee there, they're coming out with, well, how do we attract, students who are bachelors of science, the Associate of Arts in nursing, right? So that then they have the stream into the Bachelors of Science in nursing through UMBC, right? And it's really interesting, and I wasn't at the meeting unfortunately, but, even with the program that I'm involved in, it's like, it's just this weird kind of nebulous thing that it seems that we're sort of missing each other. They're going one way and we're going another way, and as much reach out as, our staff do with them, it doesn't get to that higher level. So, when our staff meet with them, it's at a different level than what we should be meeting with them at a board.
So trying to get something going with the college for sure. I'll do a reach out there and see if I can bring something back to our next meeting, or even if I end up doing it via email with you.
That's fine.
It'll probably have to be Zoom or Zoom. I want to be optimistic. We're going to be able to by June.
Well, next week I'm meeting with the CEO of the college.
Okay, thank you very much for your direction on that. We were worrying about that. I don't have anything under new business. Is there anything anybody else has? All right, so. And Michelle was live streaming to join us tonight, but she didn't send anything. And QP, no. District Parent Advisory Council, no. Are there any questions in the live stream, Stephen?
That's a negative.
No questions or comments from the press and public? We don't have any in-camera motions to be brought forward. So I'm asking for a mover for adjournment. Moved by
David?
Yeah.
Moved by
David. I thought you said Stephen, and I thought it was the voice from
Yes.
in the live stream. Thank you, David. Whew. Okay, all in favor? Thank you guys very much. I thought it was Rick Phillips or Ryan London saying Stephen, and thought, oh, we just blew off a question.
Good.
We are still connected.
Yeah, we are. That's okay.
I've closed the
Hi, David.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, David.